Now, the new regime of Donnie Walsh and Mike D'Antoni, why is it that there's more drama with Stephon Marbury now than there was ever with Isaiah Thomas there?
I just think the problem was that they didn't really be specific in what direction they were going to go in with Stephon. I think early on it was pretty clear that he wasn't going to come to training camp, and then he came to camp in the best shape of his life, and it was pretty clear that personnel-wise they were moving on without him. So this thing hasn't been handled the right way by the Knicks, and it's been dragged on and on and on, and they need to resolve it very soon.
Right. Now, I think, because personally what I thought they should have did was just paid him and had him stay home, because they have the Madison Square Garden and the corporate entity, they have the money to be able to take care of him. But I felt they should have just had him stay home. Do you think they'll do that now?
I think they're going to come to a resolution one way or the other, because it's obvious that the one thing that I think they were able to get away from was having headlines off the court. Mike D'Antoni and Donnie Walsh were successful about making the story again about basketball. So once they clear up the Marbury situation, it'll be very clear that what is talked about is what happens in between the lines.
Now, after this year, will Marbury play in the NBA again?
Yeah, some team will definitely take him. I think it's going to be more in a reserve role, but he's too talented not to find a home somewhere in the NBA.
Do you think he'll go to Italy like he said he was going to do, like a la David Beckham coming to the United States?
If he does, it's another thing to talk about, and we do have so much to talk about.
That is for sure, and everyone in New York will talk about that. That's for sure. But I wanted to ask you about Danilo Gallinari, the first-round pick. It looks like he will be out for the season because of back problems. Now, what is the overall assessment of the pick? Is the Knicks organization regretting that pick right now? Or
I don't know if they're regretting it, because obviously they really feel that he's a guy that can bring everything together for them. But at the end of the day, when you're in the situation that the Knicks are in, and you're clearing way for 2010 to try to sign marquee free agents, you need to build pieces from within to make this a more attractive destination for those free agents. So with the minimal assets that they had on their roster, if they use the number 6 overall pick and it doesn't blossom into something fruitful, it's going to be a big problem for the Knicks moving forward.
Yeah, that's true, and that's why I felt the Knicks should have drafted Joe Alexander, because with him, of course he's struggling to get some minutes in Milwaukee, but he's still young. But I feel like he would have been able to learn, especially in Coach D'Antoni's system right now.
Joe Alexander's a thought. I was more of an advocate of Eric Gordon because of his ability to score the basketball. I think, with Coutinho Mobley being traded from the Clippers in his last 2 games, he's had 25 and 24.
Yeah,
so the more minutes Eric Gordon gets, the more he's going to score.
That's true. That's true. And it's funny, because they talked about him possibly being a point guard, but he is not a point guard. He's an off guard.
He's a combo guard. He's a combo guard. He can play some point, but I compare him very much to Chauncey Billups in the sense that when he came into the NBA, he had a scorer's mentality. But I think because of his size at 6'3", he can develop the point guard skills to allow him to transition to that later in his career.
It's all about the right coach, because with Chauncey, he had Larry Brown. That was the one person that was able to...
before that, he had Rick Carlisle.
Right, exactly. Right. So it definitely gave him that opportunity to blossom. And
Absolutely.
I always loved Chauncey Billups. 95 McDonald's game, one of the greatest classes ever with Stephon and Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Vince Carter, etc., etc. Right. But speaking of the rookie class, historically, this could be one of the best classes ever. You have Russell Westbrook, Derrick Rose, O.J. Mayo, Jason Thompson, DJ Augustin, Eric Gordon. I mean, et cetera, et cetera. This is really turning out to be one of the best classes in the history of the NBA, you think?
It is, but at the end of the day, it's all about the person on the top of the board. And I'll be in Philadelphia tomorrow to see Derrick Rose take on the Sixers. And I just think in the NBA, you need an anchor. You need somebody that can man your roster and your team at the point guard position. And I think when you look at the NBA playoffs the last couple of years, they've been dominated by young point guards. Chris Paul and Deron Williams. And Derrick Rose is a more athletic version of Deron Williams. And he also has the maturity at 19 years of age to know when to take the game by the throat and when to defer to his teammates.
That's right, because he did take that championship game by the throat for Memphis, and unfortunately, just the meltdown of free throw shooting, unfortunately. But now, they'll possibly win the rookie game finally. The rookies, instead of the sophomores, blowing them out every year, so we shall see. But I wanted to ask you, what do you think of O.J. Mayo? Because he has been lights out, averaging over 20 points a game. I didn't think he would shoot the basketball this well.
He's totally recalibrated his game. He's gotten himself into a situation now where he understands that in order for him to get in a better flow on offense, he has to take the ball to the rim more and get himself acclimated, and that'll allow him to get to the line and open up things from the perimeter. He understands he needs to attack first and then use his post-up and set-up game.
And one more question about NBA and the Knicks. Mike D'Antoni, I asked Mike Breen this question, and I was wondering, Do you think that with him turning down the Bulls position and coming to the Knicks, do you think that because he's been a success everywhere he's gone as a head coach, do you think that he wanted to really put a stamp in his legacy to turn this franchise around?
There is a big attraction when it comes to the New York Knicks, to coach in New York City, to coach in Madison Square Garden. There's a lot of novelty that comes along with that. But the biggest thing I had with Mike D'Antoni coming in, the biggest question I had was, could he, in New York, get these players to raise their level of play? And he's answered those questions. He's very impressive in how he gets people to buy in and stick to a cohesive game plan.
That's right, and especially when you have the U.S. Olympic team calling him a genius. Yeah. Everyone was praising him.
People want to play for him.
Exactly. And he's a great guy, too, just from being at the press conferences.
Not only do you work here at the Manhattan Neighborhood Network, but you also work for the Mutual Admiration Society. So Coach D'Antoni can get a copy of this tape, and Nabaté is obviously on board, so he'll make sure the check's in the mail.
That's right, and I'll make sure I have hopefully Coach D'Antoni as a guest, You
got it.